Mr. Speaker, the second proposal is that we need to put trackers to these rapists, the way we have done with pedophiles in America and other countries, so that when they come around schools or come around, it should be tracked. There should be a signal, Mr. Speaker, so that we can prevent these rapist cases. And I want to challenge DCI, if these cases of abductions are happening, and they know, it is hard to look for one person, one rapist that is causing havoc, that has raped 8 women in Kajiado. It is very unfortunate. What DCI, and we give them money. DCI, must be called out and the police to ensure they track these rapists, Mr. Speaker. We don't want our women and girls to live in fear when they are going to school or they are. Finally, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of doctors, I want to say, I brought a statement about the KNH the other day. Now we have this doctor who committed suicide. I think we need to agree. There was a CBA that the government signed with the doctors. We must implement that collective bargaining agreement. Let's give our doctors and nurses and medical practitioners their right, Mr. Speaker. The reason they are committing suicide is because of harsh working environment, Mr. Speaker, where there is no gloves, there is no protection gear, PPEs, Mr. Speaker, there is no good remuneration. I have seen my brother Kebore, the CEO of Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, they have called in strike in some counties. Even I saw my classmate in Kericho calling for strike of doctors because they have not been given fair treatment and fair remuneration, Mr. Speaker. You saw, Mr. Speaker, there was a doctor who worked more than 24 hours in KNH and he died in his sleep a few months ago, Mr. Speaker. People like Dr. Desrin Mora have given all in their life. To be a doctor is not easy, Mr. Speaker, because they say God heals, but the doctor cures, Mr. Speaker. We need to stand with the professionals. Mr. Speaker, finally, I am proposing that the Senate and the Health Committee, and I hope the health members are here, let us form National Health Commission. Because there is crisis in medical sector. You go to Nandi, we have problems. You go to Nairobi, you go to National, Mr. Speaker. You go to Meru. Meru health system has collapsed. Why don't we form National Health Commission to handle human resources of medical practitioners in this country? From dentists, from gynecologists, Mr. Speaker, from psychologists, therapists, Mr. Speaker, all these medical practitioners, and give them a better package, Mr. Speaker. Because with time, if we do not fairly remunerate our doctors, they are emigrating to other countries. We will never have professionals to treat our people. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we will be emigrating most of our people from here to India. Yet we are losing revenue. What is different that India is doing that we cannot do in Kenya and treat our people, including cancer patients? Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I support all these statements, and I thank you.
Next.
Nearly 3 weeks ago, we had a similar incident in my county, Vihiga County, where the presidential visit happened at a place called Luanda. A market was being constructed, and a day before the presidential visit, some people descended on the market stalls, demolished them. They never cared about the plight of the affected traders. And the next day, the president came there to launch the market. Mr. Speaker, it was very nasty because there was too much heckling. They even heckled the governor of Vihiga County and other people, other members of parliament there. I think this is a matter that we need to take seriously because the office of the head of state is an office of honor, is an office that must be respected. And therefore, when we have all this manner of heckling and disorder in a presidential event, then we are clearly making this office to lose the respect it has. And Mr. Speaker, I must dare to say that the security officers were well aware of what was going to happen. They never took any action. There was no protocol in that meeting. There was no protocol in that meeting. So I think this is a matter, the incoming committee of security, where my good friend Odinga wants to be the chair, must seize this opportunity and investigate all these incidences, not just in Isiolo, even Vihiga County. We have never had a scenario where a president is in an event where there is chaos, there is disorder, there is heckling. It never happened under Moi. It never happened under Kibaki. It never happened under Uhuru, but it's happening under William Ruto. It is because, the question is why? The committee must investigate that. They must investigate that and tell us what is happening. In Vihiga County, stalls of poor traders were demolished and they have not been compensated to date. Just because the president is coming the next day to launch a market. They had all the time to plan. They should have planned better. A governor of Vihiga County ended up being heckled because the traders thought it is him who had demolished. But it was demolished by national officials who came a day before. Mr. Speaker, this disorder must stop, and therefore I support.
What is your point? Okay, you are finished.
Mr. Speaker, understanding 105 on accuracy of facts, as the Senator also reported in the police about the demolition of the stalls. Mr. Speaker, this is not a marketplace where you just make sweeping statements. We must be held accountable in our statements as leaders. And to allege that the presidential function as synonymous with heckling is not our issue, Mr. Speaker. And it is sad coming from ODM deputy party leader. It is out of order, Mr. Speaker, to come and peddle lies before the House, yet he knows he should go to the police and report.
You know, Viga is...
You can see they are even heckling now.
Viga County is
and you know, Eddie, you are heckling and we wanted to make you chair roads. Why are you heckling?
Senator Chalagay. Senator Chalagay. Viga County is ably represented by Senator Sosi. And what he is saying must be factual. You give us a lot of stories for Nandi. We don't even ask you about Nandi. So let's go to the next, Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, as a member of the Security Committee, a new member of the Security Committee, I don't think you need any sessions with the Security Committee to know why the President is being heckled across the country. That is my position. But I wanted to make comments on the statement by Senator Eddy. One of the things that I am very proud of, Honorable Speaker, as you know, is that I am SG of ODM. And in that capacity, we do have proper networks across the country to give us information. I was sitting in my office, and a young MCA called Engineer Tyson Kemege came to my office at KICC. He is a specially nominated MCA by the ODM party. Many people will tell you or try and convince you, Honorable Speaker, that ODM has no presence in Kuria. That MCA is nominated by ODM party, and we have very strong support there. Honorable Speaker, if we can get our act right internally, I am sure that we can get 1 or 2 constituencies there in Kuria under ODM. And Honorable Speaker, I was quite surprised that it is very easy for us sitting here in Nairobi to not even be aware that there are communities living in conflict for a very long period of time. I was actually very surprised that this dispute at the border between Narok and Migori has been going on for years. And Honorable Speaker, when he came to my office, I took the liberty. Luckily for me, the senator for Migori is elected under my political party, ODM. The governor of Migori, the same. And even the women rep, although she is not elected on ODM, she is ODM adjacent. That's the term we use. And I spoke to these leaders to try and understand how is it that a conflict can run for so long under the radar, that people have lost lives. And Honorable Speaker, even as recently as a few weeks ago, is a young man who was shot by security officers because of this dispute about the use of land that has historically been used by the people of Kuria to farm. Honorable Speaker, it was quite surprising for me. And I remember assuring the Honorable Kemege that I would speak to the leadership there. I spoke to Governor Ochilo Ayako. I spoke to the Senator Eddy. He had promised to bring a petition, but I am happy that after we spoke with Eddy, he has found a faster route that will not enlabor the people of Kuria there because they have a senator here who actually takes his work very seriously, Honorable Speaker. These people, because of the conflict down there, we were informed by Senator Eddy that in fact they have not been able to farm on their land for almost 3 seasons now. And it is quite surprising that a conflict can just fly under the radar when lives are being lost for such a long period of time. Honorable Speaker, therefore, I am very happy that the Senator has brought this matter here. I saw the effort you put in, Honorable Eddie Okech, over the holidays in December to try and assuage the situation there, because a community that has not farmed for 3 seasons was literally at the mercy of starvation. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that it may take time for us to sort out our security matters, but I am happy that there is progress. Just this afternoon, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions announced that 13 police officers and 1 officer from the NIS had actually been arraigned before a Kiambu court, charged with the abduction and murder of 2 Indian nationals and 1 Kenyan in July of 2022. And these people, or these officers, are suspected to have been members of the DCI that were part of the now disbanded SSU. Honorable Speaker, therefore, I want to encourage Kenyans, and especially the good police officers within the security forces, that it doesn't matter who puts you up to commit a crime. Those people will not be in power for long, and the arc of justice will get to you at some point. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, I want to also support the statement that has been brought by Senator Pace Tobiko on the instances of rape in Magadi and in Kajiado County. Honorable Speaker, Magadi is a place that is very close to my heart. I have spent many months in Magadi itself, because I have an uncle who used to work for the plant there before it was sold. Honorable Speaker, what is surprising, and this is something that is a universal scourge, these issues are not unique to Kajiado. I was sitting with a team of firefighters from Nairobi today, Honorable Speaker, and would you believe it, there was a complaint raised by one of the female firefighters that because of the nature of the dire situation in which the department is, there is no security at our fire stations. Honorable Speaker, we are supposed to have police officers manning these fire stations at night, armed police officers, but they are not there. So you can imagine, Honorable Speaker, you go to places like the Ruaraka fire station, there is no even gate. And you are a lady manning the control room, supposed to receive fire incident reports and to dispatch firefighters, and you're sitting there. So there is an allegation at one of the fire stations, Honorable Speaker, that one of our female firefighters was raped by a colleague, and that there are attempts within the leadership of the Nairobi County government to ensure that that perpetrator is protected. Honorable Speaker, you can imagine the sort of mess that we are in at our fire departments here in Nairobi. So in addition to the statement by Senator Tobiko, I will personally be also presenting that same statement to the committee. And the good thing is that I'm now in that committee. There will be no cover-up of that heinous crime here in Nairobi. Whoever it is that called the OCS in that particular case to drop those charges, Honorable Speaker, we must do what we must do to make sure that there is justice for both the victims in Nairobi and the victims in Kajiado. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
There is a matter I want to dispense of with it, then we can divert to comments. Today I'm a bit easy. I want to give as many members as possible to give comments. But let me first. I want to give, we had an issue with Senator Mtata on the issue of substantiation. And he has approached me that the link he gave yesterday, the URL link is here. But he cannot confirm whether it is the actual one because he doesn't have his computer with him now, his laptop. So, Senator Omtata, next sitting, you confirm whether this is the actual link which now the Secretariat can be able to access and see whether it is the actual information that you are supposed to provide. There is another substantiation of facts that the Senator alleges again to be true. This is now Senator Karungo Dhangwa, MP. Honorable Senators, as you may recall, you can sit to the next, at the next seat there, Senator Tabitha. As you may recall, at the afternoon sitting of the Senate held yesterday, Wednesday, 19 February 2025, I directed Senator Karungo Dhangwa, MP, to substantiate utterances made in the course of his contribution on the motion of recording to the thanks of the Senate on Kenya's attempt for the position of the chairperson of the African Union Commission. The direction allows out of a point of order by the Senator for Vihiga County, Senator Godfrey Ososi, MP, pursuant to Standing Order 105. In the point of order by Senator Godfrey Ososi, MP, Senator Karungo Dhangwa, MP, was required to substantiate the claim that, I quote, it was the prayers of Kenyans that they wanted Right Honorable Raila to come back and do what he does. Either he joins the government and they continue rooting, or he speaks for the people as he has been doing. Close of quotes. Honorable Senators, Standing Order 105 provides that 1, a senator shall be responsible for the accuracy of any facts that the senator alleges to be true and may be required to substantiate any such facts instantly. And 2, if a senator has sufficient reason to convince the speaker that the senator is unable to substantiate the allegations instantly, the speaker shall require that such senator substantiates the allegations not later than the next sitting day, failure to which the senator shall be deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121, disorderly conduct, unless the senator withdraws the allegations and gives a suitable apology if the speaker so requires. Senator Karungo Dhangwa, MP, was not able to substantiate his statement as required pursuant to Standing Order 105.1, and subsequently requested the Speaker to provide the evidence at the next sitting day in accordance with Standing Order 105.2. Having acceded to the request, I directed that the Senator substantiates the allegations at the next sitting day. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 105.2, I now invite Senator Karungo Dhangwa, MP, to forthwith substantiate the claim as raised in the point of order by Senator Godfrey Ososi, MP, failure to which the senator shall be deemed to be disorderly within the meaning of Standing Order 121. In the absence of such substantiation, the senator will be required to withdraw the statements and apologize to the Senate. Thank you. Senator Karungo Dhangwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, after deliberations and understanding my role as a senator, that is oversight and representation, I understand that is what we call a fair comment, Mr. Speaker. And when I say that, I might have been, because I don't want to attract Senator Osotsi again to stand and maybe ask for more clarification. When I said, you know, I'm a Kikuyu and I come from Mount Kenya, and sometimes when you talk about, when you're speaking English, you replace L's and R's. So I meant rooting, which means mandamano, Mr. Speaker. He comes, I meant he will come and do what he does best. I said rooting, which is taking the route, taking any route to demonstrate in the streets of our capital, Mr. Speaker. So maybe if I was misunderstood and maybe he had I used an L, I meant rooting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But this statement, according to the answer, and it's different because you have said either Right Honorable Raila Odinga joins the government and they continue looting. Joins the government, I don't know whether you mean the government and Raila have been looting on Mandamano. I'm not sure whether that is that, but I will ask Senator Ososi.
Mr. Speaker, maybe let me clarify Senator Sotsi, maybe I just want you to understand, even when ODM is in broad-based government, they will continue making noise. You see them. We have given them chairmanship, and they're still making noise against the government. So what I'm trying to say, even if you do whatever you want to do, Mr. Speaker, they will continue demonstrating.
Time to substantiate and then...
So I meant just that, Mr. Speaker. Even if they're in government, and I'm supporting that because if you listen to Senator Sifuna today, even you listen to him yesterday, he looks uncompromisable, Mr. Speaker. Even if he is promised his people will be given chairman. Look at Senator Eddie. Senator Eddie is going to be given chairman. He's the vice chairman. And he's still asking questions to this government.
Senator Karongo, you have not substantiated your claim, unfortunately.
Mr. Speaker, I say he will join the government.
I'm not convinced as the chair that you have done that.
Yeah.
Yes, Senator Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, when somebody is called to substantiate,
Then a senator, not somebody.
yes, when a senator is called to substantiate, they must provide something to back their claims. You cannot take us down a rabbit hole trying us to teach us English and literature. And Honorable Speaker, even me, who's not a Njuricheke elder like yourself, Honorable Speaker, can tell when somebody is being clever. You are a person who has the capacity to tell when a senator is being clever. Honorable Speaker, I want you to rule the senator for Kiambu out of order. And in fact, he's added insult to injury by the claims that he has made here, casting aspersions against members of my party, ODM, which is not something we will allow, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Senator Sifuna.
We will not allow it. So, Honorable Speaker, please, if he has been unable to substantiate, let the law take its course. I know the senator for Kiambu has been very busy out there in fact, we are wasting his time with him sitting here. I'm sure there is a rally somewhere in Lari, and I know how to use L and R. A rally in Lari is waiting for the senator for Kiambu. Release him to go.
So, Senator Karongo, you know, like your substantiation is very different with what I was pushing with Senator Mtata, because yours cannot be found anywhere in a newspaper or in a book that I'm going to refer. So instead of opening so many fronts here, then why don't you just, if you are misunderstood, you just apologize, then we move on. And we withdraw from the answer because I think that's gentleman enough.
Actually, Mr. Speaker, that's what I did. I just tried to say that I was misunderstood. I used an L instead of an R. And since they did not get it, Mr. Speaker, and I want to continue being friends with Senator Sifuna because I like what he's doing nowadays, I withdraw and apologize, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Let's now go back to statements. Where were we this side? Who was the last to give comments? Okay. Now let's go to Senator Joe Newton.
No, I am not going to finish. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to comment on the statement by Senator Hamida on the mental health of medical interns, Mr. Speaker. And this is a matter that concerns all of us, Mr. Speaker, because what is happening is that, and we have seen it during the many industrial actions taken by the medics, where we have been able to establish, Mr. Speaker, that most of these medical interns are given long hours to serve, even as their seniors, the doctors, sometimes do 1 or 2 hours, and then of course, go to their private practice, Mr. Speaker. And this is something that could be leading to a lot of mental pressure and stress, leading even sometimes, Mr. Speaker, to suicide cases. Mr. Speaker, I think once the Committee on Health then undertakes the job that it is going to do while looking at this particular matter, Mr. Speaker, I think even the remuneration of these medical interns should be looked into. The hours that they put in, Mr. Speaker, and the committee then should be able to give recommendations as requested by Senator Hamida, because, Mr. Speaker, it takes 7 years, I think 6 years to train a medical doctor at the university, Mr. Speaker, while the other degree courses take 4 years. Mr. Speaker, these are people who put in a lot of time, academic time. They are people that the government and the various hospitals need to recognize by paying well, Mr. Speaker. These are a group of people, again, those that are admitted to take medicine are the top cream in every academic year, Mr. Speaker. And these are not people then that we should pay peanuts and give them, long hours of service. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that this House should take very seriously because, again, these are the people that we entrust our health to. If they are going to offer their services to us, because, of course, anybody can get ill, Mr. Speaker, if they will offer their services to us while under stress, while not comfortable with where they live, what they eat, and the kind of lifestyle that they lead, Mr. Speaker, then everybody, every Kenyan that is seeking medical services from these interns, who basically are the ones that you're going to find in every hospital any hour, will also be at risk, Mr. Speaker. And so when we speak for these medical interns, Mr. Speaker, we are speaking also for our interests, ourselves, our families, and indeed every other Kenyan, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, while at it, we may want the health committee, the Senate Committee on Health, Mr. Speaker, we're looking at this matter to also look at the training of these particular, of medical students, Mr. Speaker, because everyone knows that previously we had, or universities across the country used to admit a very small number of medical interns, or of medical students, Mr. Speaker, which has changed over time. So probably the committee should also concern itself with the fact, wanting to see what universities are doing with the increased numbers of students that are taking medical courses, Mr. Speaker. And so it is something that the Committee on Health should look into broadly and, Mr. Speaker, give a very comprehensive statement on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to give maybe one more Senate this end and one this other side. There are requests by some colleagues here that they have flight at 5:30 to Malindi and Mombasa. So I want us to manage time. Just a few minutes, 2 minutes, Senator Olekina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make some comments on two statements. One, briefly on the statement brought by Senator Peris Tobiko on the GBV cases in Kajiado County. Mr. Speaker, it is imperative that all of us should be concerned about GBV cases. When you find that for the last 3 months, 7 women have been raped in Magadi, it is something which you should be worried about. And to make matters worse, yesterday, one of the rapists who was arrested by the police was actually released on bail by the courts. So it is now upon us in Parliament to try and figure out how we are going to address this issue of GBV. We may need to look at the law. We know that everyone has a right to bail, even murder cases. But I think now, Senior Councillor Ojienda and Senior Councillor Mogeni, we need to start thinking about how to address such issues. Because in other countries, people are even held without trial. This thing is something which is affecting our own children, affecting our own mothers. It is imperative that we do this. This is something which is scaring our women of the Maasai community in Magadi, in Kajiado. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to comment on the statement brought by Senator, my very good friend, Eddie Okech. Eddie Okech and I have been working together to try to make sure that there is peace between Narok and Migori. And we've done a lot of work, and I want to commend him for bringing this statement about the tension and the conflict. Mr. Speaker, I'd request you give me another 1 or 2 minutes to give some facts. The conflict between the Kuria and the Maasai. This is as a result of our styles of living. If you look at the Kuria, people are settled in agriculture. The Maasais were nomadic. We have had historical issues to do with the land, the boundary between Kilgoris and the Kuria and Migori County. So this is not just an issue that can be resolved by the Security Committee. I heard Senator Jenda making comments and say the Security Committee should go there and resolve this matter. This is a matter that needs us to look at the boundary and to see which land belongs to the Kuria, which land belongs to the Maasais of Kilgoris. Because I would not sit here and expect that the Security Committee will go into that area and force away my people. You know, our people have been crying. The whole border of Kilgoris constituency, going all the way to Migori, you know, has got serious issues, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the Syria community, on the Kuria side, and the other side of the Wasingishu community, with the Luo side, it's a problem. So I think it's about time that we deal with these issues. There's been a lot of cattle raiding back and forth. The Kuria raiding our people raiding the Kuria. This is something which has been going on historically. And also, sometimes it happens because of our lifestyle. So I think it's a matter that we cannot strictly limit to 3 issues raised by my colleague. How many people have been compensated? It's not only about compensation. Because if you compensate this one today, what about tomorrow? It is about making sure that the boundary is very clear. The land that belongs to the Maasai remains the land that belongs to the Maasai. The land that belongs to the Kuria, it remains the land that belongs to the Kuria. Mr. Speaker, one other fact that is not even out here is that along that border, there is land which is no man's land, which now there is a camp, and I'm sure there is somebody very senior in this country who Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for adding
Just
me
1 minute, kindly, you know, as I...
Let me summarize and put it this way. We have a lot of challenges in that area. There is no man's land. Land which is around maybe 3,000 acres along the Kuria-Narok border. And that one of the things that I am very happy with Senator Eddie, because we've done a lot of work together in the community. And now we're making it known that when the Security Committee goes there, when it is not only going to say compensate, what are you compensating people for? Solve the problem once and for all, so that the Kuria people can farm in their part of the land, the Maasai people can graze on the part of their land, and we solve this problem once and for all. And that no man's land, we need to be able to know which part belongs to Kenya, which part belongs to Tanzania. It's that simple. It's a boundary dispute. We've had the same boundary issues between the Wasingishu and the Syria Maasais. You know, and that one, they just fight over a small section. That, so far, has been resolved, to my knowledge. But the part which has not been resolved is the Kuria Maasai dispute. So we cannot trivialize these matters, or we cannot say, let's just compensate them. Let's go there, solve the problem once and for all. Put a boundary. And then once we do that, we also revisit these land laws, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, right now, my people, the Maasais, are selling their land at 20,000. And then the people who are buying it, are selling it again at 150 or a million shillings an acre. That is causing problems, because once those people have sold that land and they have no land, they go back where there is a dispute and they cause problems. So we need to deal with issues, to change the laws, we zone laws, such that an area, you cannot sell any land, you can only lease. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Seki.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I also wanted to comment on the statement stated by Senator Peris Rubiko. Honorable Speaker, Kajiado people in a very bad situation now. They are worried. It's a worried county. We have a very serious and dangerous person who is moving from one sub-county to another in the county. Honorable Speaker, this person by the name of Lorgali has really terrorized our people. And I'm worried, Honorable Speaker, because we have security operators, systems of this government. And I think this is the right person, need to be abducted by these government's systems, not to abduct the innocent children, young men of this country who have not done anything. This is the right person to be abducted. They should now use their whole system to make sure that they are abducted Lorgali, who is raping elderly women in our county. And I think if they don't, we will definitely, Honorable Speaker, give our people authority maybe to find him. And probably they will not be there. He will be found dead. So I don't think we need to give government a chance to continue giving people who are violating the law to terrorize our citizen of Kajiado. I'm told just yesterday, one of the girls in Kajiado town, near Kajiado town, that man is there now. And I don't know what his security personnel are doing. So I think, Honorable Speaker, this is a very serious thing. And now we are worried of the health of those who have been.
Conclude 1 minute to conclude, because there is a matter touching on Kajiado County, which you represent.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I don't know what is the health now, the health of our people who have been terrorized, who have been affected by this man. The health situation. And I believe the counseling process will be started by the county and the Ministry of Health. And again, Honorable Speaker, we don't know the kind of system that we're going to put to make sure that such kind of problems that will not happen again. Otherwise, thank you very much. I don't have much to say because of time. Thank you.
Senator Mugen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to comment on this idea of people who pose danger to society, who are presented before court, they are charged and released on bail. Mr. Speaker, our Constitution is very clear in Article 49, Sub-Article H, that everybody who is charged before any court of law is entitled to be released on bond or bail unless there are compelling reasons. So, Speaker, if you have a serial rapist roaming Kajiado County, that should be a compelling reason for any judicial officer not to release that person on bail. So we want to appeal to our judicial officers to also take into account public interest. Mr. Speaker, anybody who can do the kind of heinous rape crimes I witnessed in Baringo, where you are raping an 8-year-old, that's a danger to society, and that person should not be entitled to be released on bail or on bond, Mr. Speaker. So I want to appeal to our judicial officers. We know the judiciary is independent. We cannot direct them on what to do, but they should apply Article 49H in a manner that does not pose danger to our women. Mr. Speaker, we want our women to walk freely. If you look at our honorable senators here, beautifully dressed, we don't want them to be at risk of being raped by serial rapists out there, Mr. Speaker. So the judiciary, it owes us a duty as Kenyans to ensure that people who pose danger to society should have their cases heard while they are in custody. If we don't do that, Mr. Speaker, we would be failing the country. If you give me 2 minutes on this issue of health. Yeah, you know, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter, you know what is before us this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, should move us to even adjourn and solely discuss this issue of our doctors committing suicide. Mr. Speaker, how can we witness in 1 year 2 intern doctors have committed suicide? Mr. Speaker, even in my own class, law class, I never saw a case where 2 of my colleagues are committing suicide within 1 year. One is Mora from Kisii, another one is in Njuki. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, our interns have not been paid their arrears of 206,000 for the month of August, September, October, November, December. How do they survive? How do these young professionals survive, Mr. Speaker? As we speak today, there is a tussle between the ministry and the county governments whether we should pay our interns 206,000 or 70 shillings. Surely, if you pay an intern 70,000, you take share, you take housing levy, you take away pay as you earn, you take away NITA, Mr. Speaker. How will these guys survive? They'll be left with no choice other than to continue committing suicide. Health is a devout function. If the suicide cases we are seeing from our own children, because our children cannot move us to do something, even to summon the CS Health to appear before us, then what is the role of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya? Surely, Mr. Speaker. Also, if you are an intern, you are seeing patients coming for treatment in a hospital, and you can't treat them. That in itself can trigger you to commit suicide, Mr. Speaker. Because we are told that the transition from NHIF to SHIF is 46%. So where are these 54% of Kenyans getting their health services from, Mr. Speaker? We are being told, Mr. Speaker, that a patient will come to a hospital, they want to log in their SHA cards, but you are told the system cannot accept you. Or when the system accepts you, your relatives who are supposed to be beneficiaries are not in the system. I want to appeal to us, Mr. Speaker. Let's take an opportunity of this statement to convert ourselves to a committee of the whole House, and we deal with this issue around the frustrations of our interns and the functionality of this thing we call shisha. You can inform me. I accept.
Yes, inform me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to inform the distinguished senator from Nyamira County that the Health Committee has taken cognizance of the issues, and today, following our elections of chair and vice chair, we prioritize looking at county governments' budgets on healthcare, and also looking at this issue of the medical equipment schemes, and also looking at the issues of doctors. So I'd like to encourage the distinguished senator to keep an eye so that the day when we have this meeting and when we've summoned several individuals to appear then and support the matter instead of now converting the whole House into this issue, because the Health Committee is alive to this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Omgen.
That's a good initiative, and I hope Senator Ledama is a member of that committee. Please address this issue of only 62%. Over 62% of Kenyans are reporting difficulties in using that SHIF portal. Yeah, portal. We should not leave National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, to run away with an issue that is devolved. If there is a function that we should be seized of as senators, look for solution, discuss passionately, then it's health. Because health is one of the most important functions that the Constitution of 2020 devolved to our counties. Finally, Mr. Speaker, finally, Mr. Speaker, the reports we are getting is that most of our private hospitals are not accepting the share cards in many of our hospitals, Mr. Speaker. And we know it, Mr. Speaker. And me, I'm speaking for the lowly of the lowly Kenyan, the person who paid 300 shillings to access share card. Mr. Speaker, if the private hospitals cannot accept these poor Kenyans, where will they get treatment, Mr. Speaker? If you visit our counties, you're from Meru, you're our cousins from the mountain. I am from Nyamira. I know the state of our public hospitals, Mr. Speaker. If we restrict the share card to public hospitals, we are denying access to health services to our people, Mr. Speaker. We need a solution. And I'm speaking passionately because I know the suffering that the people of Nyamira are going through, Mr. Speaker. SHA should be able to assist any Kenyan who is seeking treatment in a private religious health facilities. Most of the most, how do I say, most competent health facilities are run by our religious bodies. If you go to Bomet, Tenwek Hospital, treats people from Nyamira because it's run in a very competent manner, Mr. Speaker. If we leave Kenyans at the mercy of our public hospitals, Mr. Speaker, we are leaving Kenyans to die while we are watching. We will never be forgiven by Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Senator Mohamed Chute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I will only take 2 minutes because of the flight to Mombasa. First of all, let me thank Senator Hamida for the statement she brought in regards to medical interns. In fact, the problem is not only with medical interns, it is with all health workers in our hospitals, health centers, and dispensaries. Honorable Speaker, I went to a Lesemis Hospital in Marsabit County in January. When I went to that hospital, there was a nurse working on a patient, and she didn't have gloves. She was wearing plastic paper to treat a young boy who was very, very ill. And Honorable Speaker, that boy needed some infusions, and the pipe that is supposed to help that young boy was not available in that hospital. It has to be shipped or transported all the way from Meru, and it has to come the following day. That is the situation our health workers are working under. Having said that, let me also say the issues in our hospitals are not only on interns and medical health workers. Today we have a problem in Marsabit. We lost three people yesterday, 3 lives. There is a disease called Kalaza carried by mosquitoes, and 25 people are now under medication. The kits for testing Kalaza is not available in Marsabit County. And I want the government to note that the people of Marsabit are suffering, dying in numbers. So I want, first of all, to thank the KEMRI Director General. I spoke to him this morning, and he has already dispatched his team to Marsabit. And I want also the Ministry of Health, the Minister, to take note. Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to take less than a minute. I want to take note, I want CS Health to take note that there are people in Marsabit dying as we speak. He must dispatch his team to Marsabit and the place called Logologo, specifically Harare, in Shur, Jaldesa, and also Laisamis. Our people are suffering. I would also want to ask even the President to please take note that the people of Marsabit are going to be having a lot of issues on the Kalaza issue. And having said that, let me thank again Senator Hamida for the statement. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Esther Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving for giving me this opportunity. First, I wish to commend you for always being considerate, especially to members, in allocating time to comment. For that, I'm grateful, because on several instances I've spoken in this house was courtesy of you. Secondly,
That's malicious.
that's not malicious. That's not malicious, because you have greatly contributed to giving young people platform to showcasing what they can offer. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the statement by Senator Hamida, we have so many young people who are frustrated out here, and not just the medical interns. I think we as leaders need a conversation around it so that we do not lose or continue losing young people to such. Secondly, on the rape aspect, not just for Kajiado County, we have rape cases reported countrywide, but I think serious action has not been taken also. I also feel we should not send people to report to police, because the moment you're sending them to report to police, most times at those stations, the officers there are very reluctant to actually take action, or sometimes they are compromised because the perpetrators are well known or they are people of means, so it actually becomes a challenge. I think Mwananchi should take radical action themselves. In as much as that might sound extreme, maybe that will sound as a wake-up call so that we have that conversation in this country. Lastly, the statement by Senator Eddy on the border clashes. The clashes have been happening in very many parts of the country. You see Chepilat area, you see Keroka, Nyamira. Most of those clashes, when you look at them, it's issues to do with border disputes, land, or theft of cattle. Maybe...
Give us 1 minute.
Okay. I like the proposal by Senator Ledama of actually taking the initiative to sit down with Senator Eddy and other leaders, and we should borrow this to other areas we are having these border conflicts, like Kisumu, Keroka area, so that we solve these issues internally, other than let them escalate and affect very innocent people who otherwise shouldn't have been part of the crisis. Thank you.
Senator John Medu, also known as Gitunga.
Such a good name to introduce me with, Honorable Speaker, and I want to indulge you with the utmost humility that you allow me to comment on the statement that has been sought by Senator Dulo. That I know it's under 51, and that's why I'm asking for your kind indulgence, just as you indulge Senator Osotsi. I'll spend my 2 minutes, very, very effectively. And because I have not gotten an opportunity, I also want to join my colleagues in celebrating the life of Senator Cheptumo, whom I served with at the Committee on Lands. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Honorable Speaker, I also would not want to discuss as to the reason why there has been heckling across the country on meetings that have been attended by the President. Honorable Speaker, it is common knowledge that people express their displeasure in different ways, Honorable Speaker. But I am more concerned, even as we look at this matter, as to why anybody would round up people after a meeting and you want to arrest people and take them to court because they heckled you or because they expressed displeasure when you are when you attended a meeting, Honorable Speaker. How would the police actually identify the people who attended that particular meeting? If indeed these are people who are known, why can't they be stopped before the meeting, Honorable Speaker? And Honorable Speaker, I want to say this way. I have seen that part of the reporting of the motion that we had yesterday here about Kenya's attempt to clinch the AUC position, Honorable Speaker, senators were actually condemning Kenyans who celebrated that particular loss, Honorable Speaker. I would want to say this, Honorable Speaker. It is my opinion that Kenyans never celebrated because Raila Odinga lost. A section of the Kenyans who celebrated, they actually celebrated because they actually feel and they believe that William Ruto lost that particular election, because it is William Ruto who was the person who was fronting Raila Odinga, Honorable Speaker. It is our responsibility, Honorable Speaker, to be very, very happy when William Ruto is sad.
A comment on a statement now is not open to a debate on a motion which was concluded yesterday.
Yeah, I'm just
So you will not benefit from an extra minute.
It's a comment on this statement, Honorable Speaker. I'm not going outside.
Because you are now taking advantage of.
No, I'm not going. I know that one may hurt you, Honorable Speaker, but allow me.
It's not hurting me, but I'm just wondering.
It will of course hurt you, but I will restrain myself to the content of this particular motion, Honorable Speaker. This particular statement. I will not go to discussing as to whether William Ruto lost, but I would want to say, Honorable Speaker, yeah, I can be informed. If you want to inform me, you can inform me. No, Speaker, if you allow, I can be informed.
You know, I'm just observing your behavior because Senator Tabitha, what is it going to do? To read your statement? Let him conclude. You want to inform him?
Yeah, because I think it's really unprofessional or pretense for Senator Methu to say that the candidate we had in AU, was His Excellency Dr. William Ruto. Surely, if we look at the ballot, we didn't see any name of His Excellency Dr. William. So you cannot come and lie Kenyans. Yeah, you can't come and lie Kenyans that Dr. William was the one who was the candidate of AU. Even His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga said very well. He's the one who said he wanted that position. What Dr. William did was only to assist and campaign for him. So differentiate the two issues. Don't lie Kenyans that you think they are not well educated. They are well informed. And they read newspapers and they see things.
So, Senator Methu, conclude on the statement.
Yeah. Honorable Speaker, that's why you need to actually be inducting your members. That would not be information, maybe that would be a point of order. And if that is being exuded by the Deputy Leader of Majority, you know that we are in very deep troubles, Honorable Speaker. But my comment on this would be, Honorable Speaker, I was not expounding on the issues on AUC. I was saying that you cannot control how people behave or how people take you or how people feel when you are attending a meeting and when you are having a rally in their area. It is your responsibility to go and to speak to them. It is their responsibility to feel whatever they want to feel. If they feel happy about you, it's okay. If they heckle you, it's okay. It's not every time because people don't believe in whatever you're saying that you want them to clap for you. They cannot clap for you every time because over time they will know that you are lying to them. And over time they will express that anger. So let people tell the truth.
Actually, you are right. Also, there is somewhere else, so even people tiangassing other people even speaking. It's so people express in different way. I agree with you. Senator Tabitha Karanja. Yes. Let me conclude the end, then you read the statement. Only 2 minutes.
Speaker, I rise to comment. I wish I could comment about my own statement, but I can't, by the rule of the House. But I want to thank Senator Edama, and I want to thank Senator Sifuna, Senator Okenyuri, and all the senators who contributed to that statement, because it's a very important statement that has led to a lot of loss of lives in Kuria and in the Maasai side. Mr. Speaker, very quickly, let me comment about the statement by Senator Amida Kibwana. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with this House that we need to do a serious inquiry on the state of affairs in our medical facilities where our medical interns are. Because, Mr. Speaker, for somebody to become a medical intern, it means that they are really, really committed to become a doctor. That is what it means, because the work that is involved for somebody to go through the rigorous studies, the simulations in different studies institutions, and become a medical intern. They're actually very committed to become a medical doctor. But the problem that we have, Mr. Speaker, other than the ones that are known, of course, the ones that are known are usually three. The issue of delayed payments that we have talked about, and many people have talked about here, I don't want to belabor. The issue of lack of proper allowances, given the work that they do. Some of them do a long night problems that they keep on solving. and the issue of poor working environment. Other than this, Mr. Speaker, because I have been very close to a number of medical interns in this country, Mr. Speaker, the corruption that is in our medical field is extremely big. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, that 90% of medical interns in this country perform procedures without supervision? And if they call a consultant to come and take care of them during those supervisions, the way they are treated by those consultants, because those consultants don't want to leave their private practice. Mr. Speaker, this issue of private practice in this country is something that must be dealt with. Because the issue of burnout that medical interns end up experiencing is predominantly because of that element of private practice that doctors don't want to give and consultants don't want to give medical interns the support that they need. And they end up having serious burnout, they end up being mistreated, and in some cases, they end up being very under-equipped to the extent that they are exposed to risks that then leads to this kind of frustrations. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that it is seen that only 2 medical interns have died out of suicidal means, Mr. Speaker, other mental disorders that are coming in this country, Mr. Speaker, are untold. I want to urge this House, on the basis of what Senator Amida has brought to this House, can we, as a House, bring a serious motion and form a special committee to be able to actually do a proper investigation on the status of medical interns when they join work up to when they leave? Who are they assigned to? Who are their supervisors? Who is assisting them? And how are they treated in those places of work? Because this is very important. Otherwise, we are getting serious.
Thank you, Senator Okech. So I will allow you to read out your statement understanding on the 53.1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding mysterious murders and disappearance of residents of Nakuru County. In the statement, the committee should explain the circumstances leading to the unfortunate murder on 18th January 2025 of the renowned political activist by the name Richard Raymond, alias Moro President, which occurred a few meters from a Bagon police station in Molo, and state any efforts put in place to bring the perpetrators to book. Appraise the Senate on the mysterious disappearance of Brian Odhiambo from police custody on 18th January 2025 and whose whereabouts remain unknown to date, highlighting any efforts to establish his whereabouts. Explain the circumstances leading to the disappearance from the mortuary in Nakuru Teaching and Referral Hospital of the body of 7-month-old baby, Mercy Chepngeno, and state any measures in place to trace it, and outline any strategies by the Ministry of Interior and National Administration to improve the security situation in Molo and Bagon as well as Nakuru town and in its environs following those tragic incidences. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, honorable senators, I want to, from order number 9, the mover is not allowed. Then order number 10, 11, 12, those are divisions. We have no much to do that. And orders from order number 13 all the way to 22. Also, the owners of the bills and motions are not in the House. Therefore, that will be the end of our business today. Honorable Senators, there being no other business on the under paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 25th February 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
To celebrate the Luo culture at that time. There were music, good food of long ago, and men and women who know the history of the Luo movement from Sudan to here. Even today, we were praying for a great professor, Professor Bethuel Alan Ogot, who has written a lot about the Luo culture in many, many books and articles. In one of the presentations last December, before he passed away, he told us the power of women, how women were highly respected, and how even in the Luo movement from Sudan, the people who led the Luo movement, a number of them were women. He highlighted the role that women played in history in the Luo people. But somehow today we are losing it. Nobody cares about the role that women play historically in various movements, historical movements, in wars and anything else. Appreciation and making sure that we conserve the names, the activities, and the roles that they play. It is therefore very important that this bill must be supported, because it is a bill that is helping in preserving a culture that is dying. The Kenyan culture is rich. We are 42 communities. And that does not mean we are divided. It simply means all these communities with their cultures can make us very strong as a united nation. Kenya is a united nation. 42 communities form a nation. And so we need to celebrate the cultures that we have, the 42 cultures that we have. I know culture is dying, but we need to still fight very hard to protect it. We need to protect Gotramogi. That is a hill where our ancestors settled when they arrived in Kenya those many years. Nobody should go there in that land and start digging and treating it like its own. It must be protected, and nobody should interfere with it. We have the Kikuyu Kiondo. I remember very much in this very house, somebody brought the issue of Kikuyu Kiondo, that some other European countries are grabbing and calling it their own. It is owned by the Kikuyus because that is a traditional basket that they weave that is part and parcel of their identity. But some people, foreigners, have grabbed it and made it their own. So that is where the catch is. We are losing what we have to the European countries. We need to grab back our culture that they have taken, what they are making so much money on, that belong to us. We need it here, right here. Because if we don't watch it, they will grab everything and they will take us back to their country and make money out of us. Very soon, you will call that slavery. They will soon pick us up and take us over there if they're taking some of our property that we need to protect. I'd like to conclude, because I'm rushing somewhere else, to say that I support very, very highly this very bill, because I'm supporting our identity, I'm supporting our way of life, I'm supporting the Kenyan people who are protecting and fighting for their communities, fighting for their values, fighting for their way of life as lived by a people of today's culture. Thank you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Naomi Wako.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this debate that I like because of the Cultural Bill 2024 that has been moved very ably by the Chief Whip, and I have been listening. And as one of the people who love their culture and just get excited about our cultures, I have been so excited this evening, and also seeing that there are many people like me. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill fully because the bill was informed by Article 11 of the Constitution of Kenya, which recognizes culture as the foundation of the nation and as the cumulative civilization of Kenyan people and the nation. It commits the government to promote all forms of national and cultural expression. In fact, what excites me is all forms of national and cultural expression through literature, arts, traditional celebrations, science, communication, information, mass media, publication, libraries, and other cultural heritage. Honorable Speaker, we are who we are because of our cultures, our behavior, our way of dressing, our way of expressing ourselves, and even the way we interact with each other and socialize is because of our culture and that strong foundation that was based on our culture. Unfortunately, today, we keep losing, and many people say culture is dynamic. Yes, it is dynamic, but we don't have to lose our good and beautiful culture. Honorable Speaker, as I was growing up, one test that any young man or woman has to go through is anytime a visitor comes to your home, number one, you have to say your name. You have to say your father's name. You have to say your grandfather's name and continue up to the last generation. And after that, you have to tell the visitor your clan and the age set of your parents and your own. And by the time you finish that, then you would have passed the exam. And by the time you have gone through that interview, everybody knows that, yes, this child has been brought up in a good way or is being brought up in a good way. Honorable Speaker, those are the things we cannot find today. When I went to Norway in 1997 to do my master's, the first thing I interacted with was, I saw so many people, the Oromo speakers there. And from our country, I had my firstborn and the secondborn with us. And we were always proudly speaking about, Kenya and very good English in everything. But within very few months, we realized that speaking our own language was the best thing that we would have done for ourselves. And within 3 months, we were able again to bring back our children, and we started speaking our language, which brought a lot of value. And anytime we interacted with other Africans, we would also speak our language, and everybody celebrated with us. And since then, speaking our language in our home is our priority. Practicing the good cultural practices is another thing that we have always done. Honorable Speaker, the more we practice our good cultural practices, the more we will grow our country and also keep our valuable heritage, whereby other people in Western world today, you don't have what you see in our country. We have 42 different ethnic groups. We have, in my own country, we have 14 different ethnic groups, each group having their own unique and special cultural practices. The more we do this, the better for us as a country, Honorable Speaker. I support this bill because since independence, it is important for us to know that since independence, Kenya has never enacted comprehensive legislative framework to support the integration of culture and cultural heritage in national development agenda. Honorable Speaker, it is many years. And the potential that is there in our cultures, the beautiful practices. You know, even before we were born, although Christianity was not there and maybe Islam was not there, our forefathers used to pray to God. And they used to do so many things. I remember they used to tell me that even during the drought season like now, the elders and the spiritual fathers would just go somewhere, pray, and command that it rains. And it has always rained. But today you cannot see that because we are not living in those practices. Honorable Speaker, it is too late. In fact, this bill would have been there many years ago, so that our young people can enjoy and so that we can harness the potential of our culture. Honorable Speaker, I support this bill because of the intention. The bill is also intended to facilitate the implementation of international conventions and treaties that have been ratified by Kenya. This will take us to another level. We will make our people proud of their culture, and we will also make use of those old people who are there among us now so that they can bring the beauty, they can tell us what they know. Again, Honorable Speaker, I support this because this bill, in clause 4 of the bill, it sets out the guiding principle which include the national values and principles set out in Article 10, 27, 201, and 232 of the Constitution, and giving equal recognition, dignity, respect of all cultures, including cultures of minority or marginalized people. Honorable Speaker, this is where I belong. And for many years, we have been marginalized. We have remained minority, although we still uphold our beautiful cultures. And this bill, for the first time, has specifically mentioned us as a group so that our cultures, even if we are the minority, even if we have been marginalized for many years, our culture should also be recognized. And in recognizing that, we will have the feeling that we are part of this country. Honorable Speaker, for many years, those of us who live in northern Kenya have been referring to this part of the country as Kenya A, and those of us in Marsabit and beyond as people living in Kenya B. But by including us in such things and also recognizing our beautiful cultures, recognizing our forefathers, recognizing the heroes, recognizing the beautiful things that we do even in that part of the country, because God has given us one special gift, that we have beautiful people in northern part of Kenya. And with our beautiful culture, then we can add a lot of value to the country and our practices. Honorable Speaker, again, I support this because this bill, Clause 5 to 19 of the bill establishes the management of culture in Kenya and delineates the function of both the national and county government. I support this fully. And mine is just to say that our county governments should see how they can promote the different cultures, the cultural practices that are there, those that are harmful, like FGM, early marriages, inheritance of women. We can put that aside, but those good cultural practices should be enhanced, should be promoted, so that even our young people can have somewhere they can go and see the value of our cultures. Honorable Speaker, we need to finish the debate on this and make sure that our president will sign so that it can be practiced. And as we do that, we should think of Cultural Week in Africa, Cultural Week in Kenya, our cultural outfit, so that even when we come to Parliament, for that 1 week, we can be practicing.
The Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this chance. Mr. Speaker, even on the onset, it's very important to discuss also the soft side of our country. The country we call Kenya, in the definition of it, Honorable Speaker, is just boundaries. And I'm saying so because many times we confuse between several things. One, what is the country, the republic, the nation, the government, and the state. Honorable Speaker, what we call a country is just by the boundaries that define where Kenya lies. The other functions, Honorable Speaker, that defines what the state is the state apparatus, Honorable Speaker, the institutions of governance, which predominantly are made on the institution that guarantee the rule of law and accountability, rule of law, of course, through the judiciary, accountability through democracy in a house like the legislature, and also a functional modern state, which then defines the executive. Honorable Speaker, many times we don't talk about what the nation is. The nation of Kenya. And Honorable Speaker, I've talked about the country called Kenya. I've talked about the state, which makes the apparatus of the institution of governance. Honorable Speaker, there is also something very fundamental called the nation. And the nation is the soft side of the country. And Honorable Speaker, many times, even economically speaking, many countries actually progress when they have been able to align their culture. And Honorable Speaker, many times we confuse the culture and the language. That is only one side of what we call the nation, or shared identity, or shared values. The soft side of the country, Honorable Speaker, encompasses and answers the question of who are we as a country, who are we as a citizenry. Honorable Speaker, one could be language, others could be shared values, others could be even our temperament, others could be our disposition as a people, because, Honorable Speaker, all these soft sides of what defines the people form what is called the culture. Honorable Speaker, in this modern era, it is beholden upon all of us. And that is why culture is always actually not static, Honorable Speaker. It is progressive and dynamic. It behoves all of us to look at the segments of our culture, which then brings identities that are static. Identities, Honorable Speaker, that then brings about fault lines in the relationships of the people. And that is why many countries, Honorable Speaker, have had many people with different cultures, but they came together to find an overarching culture, a shared value across. That is why a country like Switzerland is actually more fragmented in terms of ethnicities than Kenya. But when you look at it, it is more cohesive. A country like Tanzania, Honorable Speaker, is more fragmented in terms of ethnicities. But when you go to Arusha or Dar es Salaam, and you ask anyone which tribe you come from, the first thing they ask you is, are you Kenyan? Honorable Speaker, what I'm just trying to say is that it is important progressively. It may not happen very suddenly. Progressively, that for a country to actually thrive economically, they have to pull in one direction. And for a people to pull in one direction, they have to be the same people. That homogeneity of the people, Honorable Speaker, comes about by coming up with a culture that overacts and a culture that is shared across all people. People could be speaking different languages. People could be different even in their appearance, Honorable Speaker, but it is important, even for a country to thrive, that we pull in one direction. And for us to pull in one direction, we first of all have to deal with the fault lines. We have to deal, Honorable Speaker, with things that divide us and find an overarching culture and shared values that bring us together as a people. And upon that, Honorable Speaker, the beauty is that we always have a chance. As a country, we have a chance. As a continent, we have a chance, Honorable Speaker, so that we can define ourselves, Honorable Speaker, through an overarching identity, and an identity that which is not static, but which is fluid. Honorable Speaker, most of the static identities are the ones that pull people apart. For example, when you are born in a different, speaking in a different language, Honorable Speaker, many times, therefore, in that particular ethnicity you come from, you may never be able to change it in your lifetime. But, Honorable Speaker, also, another static identity that we always have to live with, Honorable Speaker, many times it comes as religion. Honorable Speaker, there are also other fundamentally static identities. But the current era, the modern age of nation building, Honorable Speaker, departs from those static identities and chaperones and comes up, Honorable Speaker, with a fluid identity where people can cross over. In the identities that are static, you can't cross over. But in a fluid identity that brings people together, it becomes a big bus where anyone can get in, Honorable Speaker, and it becomes an identity where anyone can cross over, Honorable Speaker, and feel they belong. And I believe that is what we must do as the leadership of our country, as the leadership of our continent, because I believe together as a continent, we are one people. We just have to fight that one commonality, because together, and especially as Africa, we are one people, Honorable Speaker. We must act as one people. We must pull in one direction so that our continent can actually have better days ahead. And even the same should percolate to the individual states, to the individual nations, Honorable Speaker, to the individual countries, so that we continue building a cohesive society. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Sounds like the Hegelian philosophy or something of that type. Let's hear from Honorable Wilberforce Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to also lend a voice in support of the bill before us, the Culture Bill, which is a bill essentially to give effect to Article 11.3 of the Constitution of Kenya that calls for the protection and preservation of the culture of the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, culture espouses the entire life of the individual. Culture espouses is the glue that binds the individual to the community. And what is a community? Honorable Speaker, when you look at the bill, they attempt to define a community. And a community defines a culturally homogeneous and consciously distinct group of people who share any of the following attributes: common ancestry, similar cultural mode of livelihood or language, geographical space, ecological space, or community of interest. Honorable Speaker, Kenya is a case study of culture. Because, Honorable Speaker, you are aware, the so-called people who are in Kenya here are not the original occupiers of the space, the geographical space called Kenya. All of us migrated from somewhere and came to this country And because of the colonial boundaries, we found ourselves in one space, one geographical space, delineated by as Kenya, reaffirmed in our Constitution 2010 as the space called Kenya. But truly speaking, Honorable Speaker, and I would want to challenge anybody who has a contrary opinion, and this bill seems to allude to something like a national culture. We can never have a national culture because we are completely different, but we can have a community of interest because we are bound together politically, we are bound together the instruments of the state, we are bound together by the monopoly of violence that's normally bestowed on the state to ensure that we remain together. It's therefore important, as we live in this country, we must appreciate the diverse culture of the people of Kenya. I say so, Honorable Speaker, I am a Samia, and the Samia people stride both Kenya and Uganda. We were simply separated by the colonial boundaries. So if you tell a Samia person to espouse the national culture of Kenya, what about the cultural integration that we have with our community, with our brothers and sisters, our cousins across the border? The same applies to the Somali community. If you tell them they must now discard the Somali culture and espouse the national culture, what happens to the Somalis in Somalia, Somalis in Djibouti, Somalians everywhere? The same applies to my neighbors, the Tesos. The same applies to Masais. Therefore, it is important in the drafting of this bill, and I want to echo the sentiments of KJ, when he says this bill is a generality. And even if you look at the drafting, Honorable Speaker, it would mean actually it will have almost 100 or so regulations, subsidiary legislation to put into effect to implement this bill. This also brings now, I can understand the difficulties the drafters faced. What is culture? What is culture? Is such a fluid statement, is an ever-changing target. The culture that was there when we started migrating here is no longer a culture that's tenable today. Some cultural practices have faded away, have to change by virtue of changing society. That's why, Honorable Speaker, as I'm not so sure to what extent amendments will be made to this bill to make sure that it fits. Again, if you look at the definition of culture, defines culture means the set of distinctive spiritual, material, intellectual, and emotional features of a community or a social group. Incapable of being precisely defined. So, Honorable Speaker, it is a good attempt in the right direction to preserve the culture. But the only saving grace I see in this bill is an attempt to give it to the county government to recognize and register. But again, Honorable Speaker, in a heterogeneous society, community, for example, like Busia County, to what extent can the county government record and preserve the cultures of Tesos, the cultures of Samias, the cultures of Marach, the cultures of Bahayos, the cultures of Banyalas, the cultures of the Luos who have come to stay with us, the culture of the Subas who have come to stay with us, Honorable Speaker. And then also, Honorable Speaker, it is basically, my fear is the way it's drafted. And normally the way the other side has got very intransigent views to any views expressed from this end. If we pass the way it is incapable of being implemented, Honorable Speaker. We must appreciate, I totally agree, mwacha mila ni mtumwa. But the mila, as the player says it, is specific, localized, and left there. Honorable Speaker, there are some cultures that we are not willing to cede, to expose to other people, because it's our secret. Honorable Speaker, a herbalist will not allow to surrender his skill or her skill to anybody else so they can copyright, because that's their survival. So how do you register that kind of a culture and let it go out? Honorable Speaker, a night runner, that is culture, a night runner. How do you expect the night runner to go and register his innate skill to run at night and scare boys and girls, or those who roam, or even the skill of carrying some sand or gravel and throwing on top of the roof? How do you explain that, Honorable Speaker? How do you explain that?
Undo, I thought that runners had earlier registered their own society. Proceed.
Thank you. I hope they registered the society, but not the culture, not the skill. Honorable Speaker, I totally agree. So there are quite a number of very far-reaching issues, Honorable Speaker, and culture changes over time. So which culture are we registering? Honorable Speaker, let me draw to attention of the nation that in the Samia culture, women of a certain age were never allowed to eat chicken. Yes, they were never allowed to eat chicken, or eggs, or some type of fish. You see now, that's why it is so difficult to contextualize the culture. Honorable Dagal is already complaining. We had the reasons for it. Honorable Speaker, you never, in my Samia culture, Honorable Speaker, you will never meet on the same road with your mother-in-law. She either goes into the bush or you go to the bush. Now, with these open roads, with the bushes gone, how do you succeed? How do you ensure you register such a culture and preserve such a culture? We must be dynamic. And that's why, for me, where I sit, the focus should be in the historical books, probably collecting the artifacts of the people. Honorable Speaker, in our culture, a girl who was now already an adolescent could never share the same toilet with the father. She had never. How? But now, Honorable Speaker, we come to Nairobi, we live in 10 by 10, there's only one toilet. The culture is gone. And that's why you find some of these two small things are starting to emerge. So, Honorable Speaker, and even issues of wife inheritance, Honorable Speaker, the women's rights came and sensationalized the issue and made it look so bad. Yet it was merely protecting the lineage and the heritage of the family, because we do not want strangers to come into the family and sow some strange seeds, so that you have kids looking this way, they look like Aloro Mondi, some look like Ndindi Nyoro. We never allowed that kind of an arrangement. We needed the purity of the family. So, Honorable Speaker, at the right time, we'll give the experts, the advisors, we'll attempt to make amendments. But I sincerely believe culture is dynamic, let it remain fluid and ever-changing. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Jamatia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I want to, from the onset, support this culture bill, and I want to say it is a very timely bill. It is a bill that is going to give us a lot of unity as a country. And before I even go so far, I want to quote and read a quote from one of the British Parliament legislator those days, or someone who addressed British Parliament in 2nd February 1835. His name is Lord Macaulay. He said, "I have traveled across the length and the breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such a wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual, cultural heritage, and therefore I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system, our culture, for if the African think that all that is foreign and English is good, the greater and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them. A truly dominant nation it is. This is the year 1835, Mr. Speaker. This is a calculated move that was done in fragmentation of African culture. We are back to discussion today in one of the British colony, Kenya. And what is haunting us today is how we can bring back our culture. The proponents of the bill has really attempted so much, as Honorable Wundo has said, to give us how a best way possible on how we can preserve and have our culture in place. But the bill speaks so much on the hardware. If you look at African culture is based so much on the software, Mr. Speaker. It is how we passed down. We were not able to write down our cultures and histories. And that is why we found ourselves in these fragmented situations. Mr. Speaker, I want to be very particular on many things. I am a believer of cultures, specifically my culture. I am a Tugen, a Kalenjin. And in Tugen culture, if you look around and everyone speaks about their culture, African culture is so similar. If you go to the Nilotic of the Luo land, you come all the way to Kisii, come all the way to the Kalenjin nation, it is all basically African way of life. Today, we are faintly surviving because we were fragmented so much by the colonialism. From the borders, as Honorable Ndindi just put it, the sacrosanctity they gave us about the imaginary borders, that I should not be doing this because I am from the other country. It is because listening to what this, the proponents of the colonialism realize is that Africa looks like a small vault, that every time you want to save something, you put it in your vault. It is because in Europe today, you can traverse from every corner of the continent from the morning to evening without borders. But when you come to Africa, if I want to go to my nearby neighbor, Tanzania, Uganda, South Sudan here, I need a visa. And it all eroded our culture because we were just one family. I want to speak about our dressings. I really want to look forward to a day when all of us in this house will be comfortably walking in and out with our culture or cultural dresses. I want to dress in my Tugen dress and showcase my beads, whether I am half naked or whatever. It is always what we were priding on so much. There are many other ways that Africa were proud in their cultures, and many of them is artificial African cultures, and it's what we call artificial intelligence today, Mr. Speaker, like the rainmaking. That is artificial intelligence. There was a way our young mothers and our old mothers, the grandmothers, would walk in and know a small girl of around 18 years is pregnant without necessarily going to test in the hospital. Because there was no way, but there was a way they would just know. There are also ways that you cannot marry from this other clan because of the historical and passing of specifically on diseases that ever happened in some clans that we are told as a young girl, you are only guided to be married from this point of family or clan or whatever. Also, we used to have and pride on polygamy. Most of the families here are products of members here in the floor or this house are products of polygamy. Today, we are being told we shun our polygamy status or culture and embrace homosexuality. It's a wild thinking of how Africans would easily pick other people's culture and, easily shun away or throw away their cultures. Like spiritual, for instance, Mr. Speaker. If I was born in India today, I would be an Hindu. If I was born in America, probably I was a Christian. If I was born in Iraq or Syria or somewhere, I would be probably a Muslim. I am born in Africa. What is my religion? It is because Africans were not religious. They were spiritual people. They believe in a deity that not necessarily given a name. And that is why if you go to Marsabit, you will see we pray through the sun and the moon. In the Islamic, every time they go through the Ramadan season, their artificial intelligence at that time of African would show them that the moon would have to behave this way so that when they fast, they have to take that time and because they were going to stay for long without eating, and all those had its own interpretation. Mr. Speaker, African culture is actually adored. As we speak today, every colonial master, be it a British, a French, Germany, Spain, and all name it, have the artifacts of Africans in their own colonies or in their own countries. I want us, as Kenya, we will need to raid on British Museum and get our artifacts and bring back to Kenya. We are bringing this culture bill because we are going back to the roots and we are taking back our cultures with pride. We want to eat our food. Nowadays, if you go to hospitals, you find young children having diabetics because of the social food that you have exposed ourselves. We eat junk food all the time. But on those days, in my culture, because of the less food we used to have, if you are eating proteins, let's say milk, you can't drink milk and eat meat at the same time. And it was also a balanced diet. You could not eat a lot of starch without having vitamins in it. And also, we used to balance with natural food like honey. If you come to Baringo today, every household believes honey is medicinal. And when we used to take care of our father's goats and cows, we used to take honey in the morning. We could take them all the time because it was nourishing. And every time we take honey, you don't get cough easily. You don't get sick anytime or many times. It used to be almost like a whole meal. Because when you take honey, Mr. Speaker, you most likely going to take a whole day. So otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I want to say categorically that this bill should be enhanced as it goes through the process. We want to ask the President, as he signs it, it should be marinated with a proper cultural day. We need to dress properly. And when the bill is being signed, we need also to give it as a sign of patriotism. During the cultural day of Moi Day, those days, we need, or Utamaduni Day, it must give us the patriotism through our culture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, and strong arguments. She just quoted Lord Macaulay, some teacher of history and government. In that debate, he was arguing with a man called William Travaropa. You may need to just go beyond that. Let's listen to Honorable Beatrice Adagala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to voice my concern on this bill. I think the bill has come at the right time, and it is encouraging and enriching on culture. Like in my place, there is this famous words, Mulimoyo Musangalile. That is our culture, and that is the greetings of the new year. So, Mulimoyo Musangalile. Mr. Speaker, I want to say thank you for this bill. Whoever has come up with it, our cultures are diverse. We are several people, like in my county. I'm proud of having several communities. We have the Tirikis, the Maragolis, the Banyoris, and the Teriks, who have diverse cultural backgrounds that are very enriching and which can be taken with the seriousness it deserves. People connect with each other at the time when they're doing their cultures. Culture is part of an identity. It makes somebody to identify himself with a particular group. The way I've said, like the Tirikis have a very rich culture, which if I can go by what Honorable Undo was saying, the women are not supposed to eat chicken in the Luhya culture. They were not supposed to. That was just instilling discipline, and it was considered as part of the culture, although it has been eroded at the moment. People eat although there were several parts that were meant for men. But now, with the present things, people are eating everything. Identity of communities is a very rich culture that we need to embrace. Communities were identified with the various activities, like in Vihiga, the Tirikis have a very rich cultural circumcision. The Bunyores are the rainmakers. They are known for that. The Teriks have theirs. And the Maragolis have a very rich Maragoli culture too. So these ones we need to encourage. We need to encourage them so that they don't get away. Some of them have very rich education values that they teach our children. We can be wondering where some of these things have gone. The children may not be knowing. Speaker, protect me from Undo, Professor Undo, and the Superman. They're making
Professor
a lot of noise.
Undo, calm down. Thank you. Proceed, Honorable Dagala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for protecting me. These men are shouting like it's a marketplace. In fact, I was actually explaining my rich culture because I'm a proud Tiriki girl and a proud Maragoli woman. So these are very rich cultures that we need to tap into it. We need to protect. We need them. We need our children to learn out of a lot of things from the elders, the culture, how things used to be done. Let us not just take culture like something that is backward, that it is looked at it. Our Ipusa, like we are going to have it in August, it's a very rich culture. We feel very nice in August when we shall be doing our thing in Hamisi. So let us not look at this bill. It has come at the right time. Every culture must be preserved. Every community, they have diverse. The Maasais have theirs, others have theirs. Okay, somebody has said we have people in Uganda and Tanzania. I know we have Maragolis in Kigumba. And they still maintain that. Even the Subas are here. They are my uncles. And we share a lot of things with them. So let us not look at culture and think that we can dilute culture. Culture is one of the best things that brings us as communities together. Like in December 26th, the Maragolis have a culture. You will get Maragolis who are in Uganda, Maragolis who are in Migori, Maragolis who are all over. Maragoli nation, they all come together. So therefore, this bill, it wants to cure some of these things that we have forgotten. We have made our children to look like you get a child who is supposed to say Goku, is saying something else, is saying Shosho. A child who is supposed to say this. We are bringing confusion to our children. I think this bill is going to cure some of these small things. If they have not been included in, I think we need to add more. Add more meat on it. We see where things can be changed here and there, and it becomes too low. This is a best cultural bill that has ever come. And this one should also be encouraged in counties. Counties should also have theirs. Like my county, we should have, every community should have their day. The Tirikis should have their day. The Maragolis their day. The Teriks theirs. The Banyores theirs. So that we celebrate our culture, and then maybe once in a while we can have a particular one day where all these communities can come together and have one day that we do our culture. Therefore, culture promotes well-being so much. It promotes people, social cohesion. It makes people like boys who are growing up those days knowing very well, these are our sisters, these are our mothers. Right now, culture is being eroded. You get small boys raping old women. You get old men raping small kids. Where is the society heading to? I think this bill will cure all this social, it will promote well-being and social cohesion of our societies. Economic growth, this culture is very rich. Like the Maasai are known all over for their welcoming gestures and what they do. Let us promote this so that it will economically, we get so many tourists coming to see our diverse culture. Let us not ape the Europeans, the outsiders, the West world, what they do. Some of the things they do are very backward. We don't have to teach our children those kind of things. Let us teach our children our values of our communities. And when we actually, like we used to have an old man in Hamis who used to play the famous Isukuti. Well, let us put our regalias, our things together. We bring visitors. Tourists should come. When they come to see Ingonga Murui, or they come to see our 3 stones, our Mahiga, in Vihiga there, they will be seeing most of the things there, and it will be of an economic growth in our area. We shall get so many tourists visiting. We shall, hospitality industries will spring up. We shall have our children getting employment. Our youth who are jobless will get jobs. And this is just by encouraging our culture. This culture will be, will also, on innovation side, it will assist us. We will put our things together through the internet, through what, and people will be seeing outside there what is happening in Africa, and they will come and visit these countries. We'll visit our country, Kenya. They will visit even my village to see how those Tirikis make those masks, our beautiful masks during circumcision. This will bring a lot of money that side. You will get visitors flocking, so many of them, by using this innovation internet to market our tradition that is coming up in August. If it will be marketed very well, you will get a lot of tourists flocking to Hamisi to go and witness what is going on. So I think this bill has come at the right time. It will make us move. It is going to instill morals. It is going to make our people now embrace each other as a community. And this will be an economic value. It will make an economic value to our people. And again, as a country, we must have this culture, a culture day. We must have a uniform that we shall be putting on as Kenyans, so that we look like we belong to this country, Kenya. Not even on our cultural day, somebody is in a different color. This one is in a cow skin. Another one has a monkey on the head, a monkey skin on the head. I think we have to embrace this bill. This bill, it is really the best bill that has ever come, and it should be worked on very fast, Mr. Speaker, sir. It should be worked on very fast so that we finish up with it. It is signed into law so that
you have had your bite. The Honorable Karoli Omondi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me begin by clarifying to the world that in spite of Honorable Undo's sentiment that Ndindi Nyoro and I are probably serial inheritors, we are serial monogamists, but I have no problem with widowed women remarrying. I just don't call it inheritance. I think we all deserve companionship. Mr. Speaker, our Constitution in Article 11 declares culture as the foundation of our nation. And actually what this bill seeks to achieve is to actualize Article 11, Sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, which calls for the monetization of culture and cultural norms of communities, where the use of our culture can generate compensation in terms of payment of royalties to various communities. That is the main purpose of this bill. Culture is our cumulative civilization expressed in very many forms. If you look at the bill, you have art representation of culture, you have artistic, historical monuments, archaeological artifacts, ethnological interests, works of art, manuscripts, archives, meaning literature, furniture, musical instruments. It is also religious, it is social, it is economic, it is accumulative of all the civilization. In other words, the knowledge of a people at any particular point in time. Culture by its nature is not static. Culture changes, and in my view, I think we can still achieve a national culture. Because if you study most of the cultural practices or cultural norms or cultural art or ethnology or historical archaeological artifacts, they are expressions of various ideas borrowed from various different people at different times. And I believe if we work hard, we can still achieve a national culture for Kenya, borrowed from the good of every community. Much of the culture we know today probably will consider it archaic or, as the English taught us, repugnant to justice and morality in a few years to come. Let me also acknowledge that what this particular bill is trying to do is to create a framework to monetize culture for communities. That is what it is trying to do. Culture by itself is very difficult to patent because, as you see in the bill, it belongs to a wide scope of people called a community, who could be 1 million, 4 million, 10 million people. And to create a patent or a legal framework in which to monetize it is very difficult for individuals. So what this bill is actually trying to do is to create a legal framework where communities can monetize their culture through what we call cultural industries. And just to reinforce my conviction that we are still in a motion that we can create the completely a new culture, I will want to quote the words of one famous English poet I like very much, Lord Tennyson, in his poem, Ulysses, where he says, "I am part of all that I've met." In other words, every interaction you have with somebody else should enrich you, and you should borrow whatever the cultural practices that will advance your knowledge and standing in society. "I cannot rest from travels, yet all experience is an arc wherethrough. It is not too late to seek a new world." I believe as a country, we should endeavor to get what we can call a Kenyan culture, borrowing from all the diverse cultural identities that we have. Speaker, this bill seeks to create two things that we don't have hitherto. One is a national database of community culture. There is no database. In other words, whatever we are talking about here, there is nowhere you can go and find it documented and recorded and acknowledged as belonging to a particular community. It also seeks to create a register of those cultures and cultural heritage, as well as cultural practitioners and cultural groups and associations. That is the framework that we need so that anybody using that information or accessing it or applying it to cultural industries can then generate some income for those communities upon payment of some fees. It may look like it is not very well drafted, but it is the difficulty of what do you do to monetize culture. So the attempt here, and I'm speaking now as a member of the Sports, Arts and Culture Committee, is to create that legal framework of a register, a database, and a mechanism for collecting and recording our various cultural practices and norms. And then creating an opportunity for communities that have developed them to benefit from cultural industries. And we have so many cultural industries. But for communities to interface with promoters of cultural industries, we need something called prior informed consent in terms of the use of their cultural norms and practices. And that, again, is envisaged in this bill. So anybody wishing to tap into a cultural activity or a norm from a particular community will need to have something called prior informed consent of that community to use that culture or cultural heritage. And there are many, many industries, cultural industries, that are already benefiting without transferring any benefits to the communities. Filmmaking is one of them. You create films about Maasai culture, about Turkana culture, about other communities, circulate them in the world, make money, and never share the profits with the communities. Fashion industry is another one. Today you can go to Paris and you see the Maasai red and black, the checked ones, all over the catwalk, and nobody is paying any money for it. Academic publications, books, articles, promotion of tourism, people coming to watch Gedi ruins or going to visit certain archaeological sites. Cultural exhibitions are very common, where people organize cultural events, money is raised, but not shared with the communities. Culture as a marketing tool. We have very many instances where people's culture are used to promote goods or services. Art items, paintings, artifacts, musical productions, yeah. Medicine, somebody talked about that. You know, in Kwale, there's actually a community that has traditional mechanisms for birth control. That has